2020 was shit. But you already knew that. A lot of plans got cancelled, and for me that came in the form of my motorcycle license. With all the motorcycle riding schools closed, I was just stuck at home. And it wasn't until months later I finally got my license. With my summer break coming to an end, I impulsively decided to go on a last-minute road trip through Belgium with my good friend Mauro. Our road trip started, as many road trips do, at the local gas station. And with a full tank of gas and our spirits high, we hit the road. On day 1 of this 3-day trip, we are aiming for the westernmost part of the country. Our goal is to get to the Airbnb, get some food, jump back on our bikes and go towards the coast near the border of France. And just like that, 2 hours has passed and we made it to the Airbnb. And to be honest, I was quite happy to get off the bike and relax for a bit. But not until we first got some food, in some questionable outfits.
Dat was al één broekje dat ik niet meer liep. What are those?
The Airbnb hosts were very kind and the Airbnb itself was very cozy. But since this trip was so impulsively planned, we didn't have a lot of options, so the Airbnb was about half an hour from the coastline itself. So after eating some food, we got back on the bikes towards the coastline.
Nu even serieus.
Well, that's disappointing. When we left, the weather was nice and sunny, but by the time we made it to the coast, it was getting quite windy and overcast. So we didn't spend much time making sandcastles, we just decided to turn back around and head to the Airbnb. Because to be honest, we were both quite tired. It was also getting quite dark, and with the national curfew, we had to make sure we were inside by midnight. And after riding this Honda for hours, I was actually quite surprised. I just bought this bike a month earlier and got it running again, but I only rode it once, so I didn't really know if it was gonna make it on this trip. Maro wasn't very happy that I picked this 36-year-old Honda over my brand new Suzuki, but hey, this just makes it way more exciting. But that being said, the Honda certainly is not perfect. Yo, what the fuck? Dat was... In the 200 kilometers we rode that day, I did find quite a few issues with this bike. For starters, the tires. I'm pretty sure these are the original tires. They're so dry rotted and hard, but as long as they hold air for 3 days, I'm not complaining. The front disc brake does absolutely nothing. I'm pretty sure the pads are absolutely worn out. We did try to bleed the brakes before we left, but that did absolutely nothing. So I'm just riding it without a front brake. The rear brake is a drum brake, which works great. And let's be honest, who really needs a front brake anyway? My biggest concern when leaving were the front forks, because the right fork was leaking so hard that I'm pretty sure it's completely empty by now. But at higher speeds the front starts wobbling quite noticeably. Good thing we decided to skip the highway as much as possible. I'm very surprised, however, of how comfortable this bike is, as well as the engine. The engine has 50,000 kilometers on it with an unknown service history, and I'm not gonna lie, I also did not change the oil before I left, because, as I said, the trip was planned so impulsively that I did not have time for it. So with oil that's God knows how old and an unknown service history, this bike is running very good. Morgen maar keer. Heb je er goed in, jong?
Ik zeg moe, man.
Moe?
Ja, man.
Ah, wel, het valt nog mee bij mij. Ik ga het overleven. Wisselen we vandaag. And just like that, it's day 2 of our trip. Maro is still pretty tired, but I'm sure that will go over soon once we hit the road. I put on my tank bag, we sync our GPS, and we're ready to hit the road again. Today we are riding south towards the circuit of Jules Tacheny. It's a pretty well-known circuit in Belgium, where they hold both car and motorcycle races. Today we are just going to visit, but if everything goes right, you guys will see me ride on that track later in 2021. But that's only half the trip. After stopping at the track, we will continue our ride east, because our Airbnb is pretty close to the border with Germany, which is actually only about 5 minutes away from another well-known track called Spa-Francorchamps, which we will be visiting tomorrow. Let's see if the Honda makes it without any problems. Goed bezig achteraan. 215 kilometer uitje. Die gast die was al aan het twijfelen, jongen. Maar je hebt dat al goed gedaan. Ik ben trots op je, maat. about 200 kilometers later, we made it to our destination. And in good old CB450 fashion, I overshot the entrance because I have no front brake. We made it to the track, and of course, as we get there, somebody gets stuck in the gravel. We sat down there for a second, taking a break from riding and watching the people on track have some fun, before having to leave again because we have to make it to our Airbnb in time so we can empty our backpacks to go get some food, and since all the stores close at 8 PM, we better start going again. And now we enter what I would call the most beautiful piece of Belgium. Beautiful twisty roads going through the forests, ending up in small and cozy towns. It's really amazing how many different types of places we have in such a small country as Belgium. Both of my cameras ended up dying somewhere along this stretch of the trip, but we did end up making it to the Airbnb and having some time left to get some food, so mission completed. Mauro and me are both pretty exhausted, so we didn't stay up very long. We went to bed pretty much immediately, getting ready for the last day of our trip. Day 3, the final day, but definitely just as exciting as the previous 2 days. Mauro starts off the day with showing off his questionable cooking skills. And it was quite dark when we got to the Airbnb, so I couldn't really show you guys. But the Airbnb I booked was in this little cozy town called Malmedy, and the view from our apartment was absolutely stunning. As you can see, our bikes are parked right next to the cathedral, so you bet your ass me and Mauro took turns staring through the window to see if nobody was fucking with our bikes. After eating some breakfast, it was time to leave towards our last location, being the trek of Spa-Francorchamps, which is a very well known track internationally. Only one problem, it was closed due to COVID. So our mission was get inside, because we knew there were gonna be some motorcycles racing today. After finding a few spots to look through the gates, we finally did it. We just kept riding around the track to see if there was a spot where we could slip in, and we just did. We rode through a tunnel with no security guard or no barriers, no nothing, and we just ended up right next to the track. Now there were some other people there, but from what we could see, they all had a special press bracelet, meaning they were allowed to be there, and we did not. So we decided not to stick around for too long. We had to get home anyway. So we quickly looked on our GPS, trying to find some more beautiful twisty roads before heading home. So that's exactly what we did. And just like that, our trip was over. Roads started to become more familiar, and we were both pretty tired, so we decided to get on the highway for the last 100 kilometers. That way we would be home before dark and get some much needed sleep. I want to thank Mauro for coming along on this trip. I know he was hesitant at first because of COVID, so thanks for coming along and making this trip as fun as it was. I want to thank our Airbnb hosts for their hospitality and flexibility and getting everything ready for us on such a short notice. A trip like this is a memory I will cherish for my whole life, and editing and rewatching this video brought me a lot of joy. I want to thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.